Welcome back to the Oaki Show, and I hope you are having an amazing day, as am I, and you and me are going to take a look at the current race for a wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, as there's going to be really no droppage of the top three guys unless things really go badly. Good for the Tampa Bay Lightning the way they are playing, but right now, wild card spots are absolutely nuts right now. So it's led right now by the New York Islanders with 72 points. They've been in that spot for so long now. However, they're being caught up by the teams below them. They used to have a pretty decent lead, but they're falling behind now, and it doesn't help that they have no games in hand across anybody. They have 65 games played. Nobody has more than them at this point. Every other team has games in hand towards them. So not a very good spot for them. Every other team has that advantage at least over them. But they do have the one thing going for them, which is they lead it right now with 72 points. So they've at least won their games. They're in the number one spot, but they're not likely going to go up anymore. Led in the Metropolitan is the Rangers with 79 points. So right there, they're already behind by 7 points, which I guess is comebackable. But with the Rangers having now added so many Kane and Tarasenko to their team, I don't see them really starting to be losing at being a losing team. And the Devils are so far ahead of them, there's just no way. So they're going to be playing for a wild card spot. There's no other way they're getting into the playoffs. So 72 points around now, they have that advantage, and they're a plus 11. So they're doing pretty good, actually, in plus-minus wise, especially towards the other teams below them. There's only one other team tied with them in that category, and that is the Sabres, who we'll talk about in a second. But next up is the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are the second wild card spot team, which they've been in that spot for a while, too. It was between them and the Capitals for a long time, and the Penguins have pulled away at this point. And not really due to their their deadline moves yet, but just how they've been this season, which has been pretty shaky at times. It's been such a strange season for the Penguins. Really, most of these teams. But the Penguins with 71 points, so they're 1 point behind the New York Islanders, same place in the Metropolitan Division, not really going to make it into the top three. So they're playing for a wild card spot to make it in. And 62 games played, so they have 3 games in hand against the New York Islanders. So if they win just one of those, they're above them. At least that, if you think it in a vacuum. They win one of those, they have more points than them. If they tie at least one of those, they will at least be tied with them. And with 3 games in hand, they're most likely going to make that up at some point, right? So pretty good spot for the Penguins at this point, but they're a +2, which really doesn't help them out. I do think the Penguins' biggest problem was defense, which I guess they do add Nick Bonino and they add Kulikov, who are pretty good defensively, but I feel like they could have gone a little bit more, especially with their goaltending situation. I guess I do like Jari and DeSmith sort of, but they're not really the goalies I would want on my playoff team. So right now, kind of precarious, not precarious, but the Penguins are in a good spot against the Islanders, but then there's all the teams below them. So there are 4 teams tied with 68 points right now. So all very close. They're only 3 points and 4 points behind number 1 and 2. And that's one win and a tie, which ties them with second place, and 2 wins ties them with first. So anything can happen at this point, especially for the Buffalo Sabres, who have 4 games in hand against the Islanders and 3 against the never mind. They only have 1 in hand against the Penguins. So so the Buffalo Sabres, they've been such an exciting team to watch this year. Tage Thompson, absolute joy to watch. This guy is a stud. I hope he keeps this up. He's not going to have this one good year and fall back again, and I don't think he will. I think he's here to stay. I just think it's a big guy. He needed to develop his skill a little bit more, and I think he is finally at that point, and he's going to be a rock star for the rest of it, especially as this team's going to get just better. And the Buffalo Sabres, 61 games played, plus 11. So they are the tied team with the Islanders, and when it comes to offense, they can score, right? And it's led by Tage Thompson, of course. And this team, do I see them making it? And I would love to see it happen. I'm a huge fan of Tage Thompson. I gotta be honest. He's one of the few players that actually might make me have to buy a jersey this year for someone. And if it's gonna be from anyone, it would be Tage Thompson on one of the alternates, either the retro, or I guess both of them are kind of retro jerseys, but one of the 2, the Buffalo head jerseys. And anyways, that team, I could see them making it, but at this point, I feel like I feel like it would be better if they didn't win at this point, which I know might be crazy, but I'm glad that they didn't sell anything at the trade deadline like a team down here did that I'll talk about. But the Buffalo Sabres, I think it would probably be better if they lose this one more year, and then next year they're actually really, really good, and they're going to maybe end up in a top 3 spot, and they actually could win a playoff spot and be decent. I don't see them making it in, especially at this point, either against the Hurricanes or the Bruins of all teams, that if they have to play up against one of them, I don't like the Sabres' chances, but at the same time, they might be so exciting, they might ride that momentum, and a guy like Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins, those two guys going in there, I feel like maybe they could pull something off, and Rasmus Dahlin back there, but goaltending-wise, I mean, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, fun name, is, I don't know, I just don't think this team is ready. I think it'd be cool if they could finally break their drought, but at the same time, I don't know if it would be the best thing for them, but being this close, I mean, obviously the players aren't going to want to slow down, and I would love to see them break it and go in there and how exciting, but I don't want them to, well, maybe it would be best for them to go in and lose and come back next season with a chip on their shoulder, do it all over again and actually win. So, either or. Do I see them making it in? I think of all the tied teams down here with 68 points, I have the best hopes for them. They have the most games in hand, for one. That's one thing they have. They're a plus 11, so they're good offensively, and they have time to actually prove it, and they seem to be on a hot streak right now. So I like their chances. I like Buffalo's chances, and I think they would knock out the Islanders between the two. I think Pittsburgh's actually going to hang on to one of the spots at this point. Moving on to Ottawa. Now, Ottawa's got 62 games played, so they're tied with Penguins, 3 behind the New York Islanders, 68 points, obviously. They're all tied. They're a plus 6. So offensively, you know that you want to see a little bit more out of them, but not that bad. And they added Jacob Chikrin at the trade deadline, of course. That was their big move. And I like the move, especially for the Senators, and they're playing pretty well as of late. And with all these guys and so many young guys, it's kind of the same thing with the Sabres, that they're electric. You know, they've got a lot of energy. They're not old guys that are fighting. These are young guys who are just zooming, and they're almost there. And I would not, all these guys in Kachuk and Stützle, Batherson, Sanderson, all these guys throughout the entire lineup with Chikrin back there now, I definitely, between the Sabres and the Senators are the two teams out of the 68 ones that I do think can make it in. I wouldn't be surprised if they are the two that make it and they knock out the Islanders and the Penguins at this point. So those are my two picks out of the other tied teams to make it in, and I would love to see that happen. The Senators and the Sabres, those are the picks that I want to make in. I'll be honest. Those are the two I want in the playoffs. And next up is the Florida Panthers. Of course, last year's President Trophy winner, somehow not even in a playoff spot at this point. Of course, terrible season for them. Terrible relapse, basically. And they've got 68 points, of course. They've got 64 games played, so they're above the Penguins, so they only have games in hand 1 against the Islanders, so they don't really have that advantage going for them. They're a +2, which last year was all about offense, and this year barely any showing going for them at this point. But actually, that's not true at all. They're actually high in the standings for that, except goaltending and defense-wise, they get scored on a lot. And they didn't really solve that at all at the trade deadline. So, in my eyes, they've done nothing to try improve their problems, and I have no reason to believe in them to make it at this point, and I'd rather them not and have to try to make some moves this offseason to change this team around, because clearly last year with their team they couldn't win the Stanley Cup. This year with this team, even if they make it in, they're not going to win the Stanley Cup, and I think they need that that smack in the face of, you need to change your team around. So I don't see them making it, and that's the bottom line. I don't see making them in. And then final of the tied teams is the Washington Capitals. Now, the Capitals, of course, they sold a lot at the trade deadline, and yesterday they won 8-3 against the Sharks. So, I mean, the Sharks are a pretty bad team, but maybe maybe that's what they needed. They needed to get rid of some guys like Lars Eller or something and bring in guys like Iorio or however you say the guy's name, and Carlson onto the team. Not John Carlson, but some of these injuries on this team have been really hurting this team, and really this making it doesn't really affect them this year. They have so many injuries. I'm sure they probably had I'm sure they want to make the playoffs, but I don't even know if they had hopes of making it. Whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't even think they might have thought they could have made it in. And they're this close at this point. If they could bring back somebody at this point, and I'm not even sure if they can. I didn't look into it, actually. I'll be honest, I'm an idiot. And John Carlson's I don't think is coming back anytime soon. Tom Wilson coming back just shows you what a difference he could have made this entire season. He's been back since the halfway through February, and he's already got 5 goals this year. So pretty good for Tom Wilson. If Nicholas Backstrom's looked pretty good too. So if these two guys could have been on the team the entire year, there's no doubt they would have made the playoffs. But at this point, it's just kind of a little bit too little too late, and they sold away their team at the trade deadline. But who knows? Maybe the young blood on this team could actually fire them up, and that's what they kind of needed, was guys like Lars Eller at the end of their career to be off this team and let those guys take over, and maybe that's what they needed. But now there's Nick Jensen, who seems to be out, or he was injured, he was banged up in some way against the Anaheim Ducks the other day, so I don't know. It's kind of a rocky hill. The Capitals are my third likely team to make it in of all of them, but at this point, they seem to be a back and forth team at this point. They win, then they lose. They win, so I don't know. I'm undecided on them. It kind of depends which direction they finally start losing or they keep winning. So at this point, it's either or in my eyes. But they're above the Panthers and above the Red Wings, who are next to talk about. So the Red Wings made some really stupid moves at the trade deadline that some people seem to agree with me on. Some people seem to hate me about what I have to say, and I think I'm completely right. This team has a bright future, of course, and it's not really all about this year, but they could have made it in this year. They were tied with the Capitals at one point to actually be in a playoff spot, but I don't even know if they've won a game since then with 63 points. 63 games played in hand, meant to mention that the Capitals are at 64, so they don't really have any advantage there except for one against the Islanders. But the Red Wings, 63 games played, so they've only got 2 against the Islanders at this point, and they're the farthest out of a playoff spot. They're 6 points behind the Penguins. I threw them on here because below them's the Flyers, who are at 59, so they're not anywhere close, and 6 points, 3 wins is definitely a thing that could happen for the Red Wings, but since they sold out their team, I definitely don't see it actually coming to fruition at all, and especially since those young guys aren't going to be put on the team right now. So, the Red Wings, not going to make it. I just threw them on here because I wanted to just say how stupid they are, because they were so close, and they're still so close, but they're going to miss it again, and next year they're going to miss it again. Maybe the next year they'll make it, but because you sold out your team, you're not making it again. So, so the Red Wings not making it. So, out of this list here, who has the best chances to make it in? The Islanders, I think, are in a precarious spot. I think bringing in Bo Horvat is definitely addressing one of their problems of offense, but I don't think it was enough to solve their problems in one guy, especially a guy like Bo Horvat, who is a great player, no doubt, but he's not like an electric player who's going to light up the rest of the team to get things going. So, Bo Horvat at this point, with having no games in hand, I don't think the Islanders make it in. I think they're going to make it in like the 3rd or 4th spot outside. The Penguins, I just, knowing the Penguins and how history works, every year I always say they're not going to make it, and I'm going to finally say the Penguins are going to make it into the playoffs. I just think with the moves they made, which weren't spectacular, but with the moves they made and the guys that are already on the team, and Malkin, Crosby, and Letang, and I mean just the way this team always seems to make it in, I'm not betting against them. They're going to make it in the playoffs, and I would say the 2nd spot. Between the Sabres, the Senators, and the Capitals, I like the odds the best for the Sabres, but I just feel like the Sabres' time is not now, and I think they make it in the 3rd place spot, and I think I'm going to say the Senators make it in. I think it'll be the Senators and the Penguins, and if it's not them, I would say I think the Senators definitely make it in, and I think the Buffalo Sabres are between the Sabres and the Penguins are the 2 teams that either make it in 2nd. So that is going to be my prediction there. And I'd like to see the Capitals, though. I'd like to see Ovechkin at least try to keep playing in the playoffs a couple more games. So even though they would lose. And I think any of the teams that actually make it in the wild card would lose anyway. So it doesn't matter. So that is all I have to say. So thank you for watching this. And if you've somehow enjoyed me talking about this craziness going on, then please feel free to pick up your free subscription down below, as we're growing like crazy. We were at like 86 one day, and out of nowhere 100, and now 113. We're going nuts when it comes to the numbers. Keep it up, guys. I know you can do it, guys and gals. Keep going, make that number go up. You're fantastic if you do. If you don't, you're not so great. Everyone else is better than you. And other than that, thank you for watching this. I hope you're having an amazing day. As I already said, too sweet to you. And until next time, ta-ta for now.